The moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie silhouettes over the crumbling sanatorium that stood before us. Its twisted, broken windows stared back like the vacant eyes of a long-forgotten nightmare. My heart raced as I led my friends Sarah, Mike, and Mark into the darkened halls of the abandoned asylum. We had heard whispers of its grim history, the stories of suffering souls and unspeakable horrors that had taken place within its walls. But our insatiable curiosity and the thrill of adventure compelled us forward, just as it had done for countless others before us. The sanatorium had been abandoned for decades, its once sterile corridors now overrun with creeping vines and the haunting echoes of distant screams. It was said that the facility had been abruptly shuttered, leaving behind a chilling reminder of the anguish that had unfolded within. We slipped through a broken gate in the rusted fence, our flashlights piercing the oppressive darkness like fragile beams of hope. I couldn't help but feel a shiver run down my spine as I ventured deeper into the asylum. "Are we sure about this?" I asked, my voice quivering. Sarah chuckled nervously, trying to mask her unease. "Come on, Josh, it's just an old sanatorium. What's the worst that could happen?" Mike, always the daredevil, slapped me on the back. "This is going to be legendary. Think of the stories we'll have to tell." Mark, our quietest companion, simply nodded in agreement, though his eyes darted anxiously around the shadowy hallway. He didn't voice any objections, but the unease was evident on his face. With a sense of bravado, we ventured further into the asylum's depths. The air grew heavy with silence, broken only by the echoes of our footsteps on the cracked linoleum floors. Walls covered in peeling paint seemed to lean in, whispering secrets of the past to those who dared to listen. Graffiti-covered messages hinted at the presence of earlier explorers, their fates unknown. As we explored the sanatorium's winding hallways, we stumbled upon a room that sent a chill down our spines. The walls were adorned with grotesque, faded murals of contorted figures and menacing creatures. In the center of the room, a rusted gurney stood like a macabre altar. I swallowed hard, my flashlight trembling in my grip. "What in the world is this place?" I murmured. Sarah, her voice barely above a whisper, replied, "It looks like some sort of ritual chamber. This is getting creepier by the minute." Mike dismissed our fears with a nervous laugh. "Come on, guys. It's probably just some pranksters trying to scare people." But Mark, his earlier unease justified, interrupted. "Did you hear that?" We all turned to face him, but the darkness concealed whatever had caught his attention. "Mark, don't mess with us," I warned. "This place is eerie enough as it is." But Mark's anxiety was palpable. "No, seriously, I heard something, like a whisper." Mike rolled his eyes. "It's probably just the wind, man. Don't let your imagination run wild." We continued our exploration, the tension in the air growing thicker with every step. The sanatorium seemed like a maze, twisting and distorting our sense of time and direction. Minutes felt like hours as we ventured deeper into the asylum's heart. As we rounded a corner, we stumbled upon a room unlike any other. It was smaller, tucked away from the main corridors, and filled with a series of cryptic symbols etched into the decaying walls. In the center, a circle of worn-out candles surrounded a worn-out Ouija board. My heart quickened as I approached the eerie tableau. "What the hell is this?" I whispered. Sarah's eyes widened with dread. "This looks like some sort of occult setup. Are we in danger here?" Mike, attempting to maintain his bravado, scoffed. "Come on, guys, it's just a bunch of hocus-pocus nonsense." But Mark, his earlier fears vindicated, stared at the Ouija board with a growing sense of unease. "I have a bad feeling about this," he murmured. As we debated our next move, the room seemed to come alive with a malevolent energy. The symbols on the walls shifted and pulsed, and the air grew thick with an ominous presence. I took a step back, my heart pounding. Then, in response to our fear, an otherworldly moan echoed through the room. I swung my flashlight wildly, attempting to locate the source of the sound, but there was nothing to be found. Panic seized me as I realized that we were no longer alone. "Run!" I yelled, breaking the paralysis that had gripped us. We fled the room, our footsteps echoing in the darkened corridors, as the unearthly moaning pursued us, growing louder and more chilling with each passing moment. We ran blindly through the labyrinthine passages of the sanatorium, our flashlights darting around in search of an escape. But the building seemed determined to keep us captive, its halls shifting and rearranging themselves like a malevolent puzzle. In our frantic flight, we stumbled upon another room, this one filled with rows of rusted cages. Inside each cage were the remains of small animals, their bones picked clean. The sight was macabre and sent shivers down our spines. "We have to get out of here," Sarah cried, her voice trembling with terror. As we turned to leave, the room came to life. The cages rattled and shook violently, and from the shadows emerged grotesque spectral figures, their forms twisted and distorted. They moved with an eerie, unnatural grace, their eyes gleaming with malevolence. We were trapped, surrounded by these nightmarish apparitions. I could feel their cold breath on my skin, and the stench of decay filled the air. It was a nightmare beyond imagination, a descent into madness and terror. Then, just as hope seemed lost, a blinding light pierced the darkness, and the figures recoiled in agony. It was a radiant beam of pure energy driving back the malevolent spirits and banishing them into the shadows. We turned to see the source of the light, a figure standing in the doorway, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. It was an elderly man, his eyes filled with wisdom and sorrow. "Follow me," he said, his voice soothing and reassuring. "I can lead you out of here." Without hesitation, we followed the old man, our savior, as he guided us through the twisting corridors of the sanatorium. It was as though he knew every hidden passage, every secret route. We emerged from the darkness, blinking in the pale moonlight, and found ourselves standing outside the abandoned asylum, safe and free. We turned to thank our mysterious savior, but he had vanished, leaving us with a sense of wonder and bewilderment. What had brought him to this forsaken place, and how had he possessed the power to banish the malevolent spirits? We may never know the answers to those questions, but one thing was certain. We had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death. The abandoned sanatorium held secrets and horrors that defied explanation, and we had witnessed the darkness that lurked within its decaying walls. As we made our way back to the safety of the outside world, our hearts still pounding with fear, we knew that we would carry the memory of that night with us forever. The asylum would remain a haunting reminder of the terrors that can lurk in the most unsuspecting places. And the old man, our enigmatic savior, would forever be a beacon of hope in our darkest nightmares, a symbol of salvation in the face of unspeakable horror. The autumn winds howled through the trees, whipping fallen leaves into a frenzy as we stood before the towering, decaying mansion. It loomed like a nightmarish sentinel in the dim light of the setting sun, its windows shattered, its walls cloaked in ivy and shadow. My friends and I had ventured deep into the countryside in search of adventure, and we had found it in the form of this forsaken estate. With me were Sarah, my childhood friend, daring and headstrong, Mark, her quiet but dependable cousin, and Alex, our resident skeptic, always quick with a joke to ease our nerves. We had heard whispers of the mansion's grim history, tales of family tragedies and dark secrets, but the thrill of exploration and the allure of the unknown drew us closer to its foreboding threshold. I led the way up the crumbling steps, my flashlight cutting through the gathering dusk. The front door, cracked and splintered, yielded to our cautious push, and we entered a world frozen in time. Dust hung in the air like mournful spirits, and the echoes of forgotten footsteps seemed to linger in the fading light. "Are we sure about this?" I asked, my voice quavering with doubt. Sarah, her enthusiasm unyielding, flashed a mischievous grin. "Come on, Jake. It's just an old mansion. What's the worst that could happen?" Mark, ever the stoic one, nodded in agreement, though his eyes betrayed a hint of unease. Alex, however, Couldn't resist the opportunity to tease. Yeah, Jake. Maybe we'll find some ghosts and make some new friends. We moved further into the mansion, our footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust that blanketed the floor. Paintings, shrouded in tattered cloths, lined the walls like forgotten memories, their subjects watching us with haunting eyes. As we explored, we stumbled upon a room that sent a chill down our spines. The walls were adorned with faded portraits, each one showcasing a somber face twisted by sorrow and despair. In the center of the room, an ornate mirror stood, its glass tarnished with age. I couldn't help but shiver as I looked at the portraits. What kind of family would have such sorrowful paintings? Sarah frowned, her curiosity piqued. I read about this place online. They say the family was cursed, doomed to suffer through generations. Mark's quiet voice cut through the tension. This mirror, though, it's pristine, untouched by time. Alex, ever the voice of reason, shrugged. Mirrors are pretty durable. Maybe it was just well preserved. As we debated the mansion's history, we heard a sound that sent a jolt of fear through our veins, a faint, distant whisper. We exchanged nervous glances, our flashlights trained on the room's entrance. Did anyone else hear that? I asked, my heart pounding. Sarah nodded, her bravado fading. I heard it too. It sounded like a voice. Mark's eyes darted around the room, his unease palpable. This place gives me the creeps. Maybe we should go back. Alex, still trying to play it cool, waved off our concerns. Guys, it's an old mansion. It's bound to make weird noises. Probably just the wind. With hesitant steps, we left the room behind, but the unsettling feeling lingered. As we ventured deeper into the mansion, the air grew colder and the whispers grew louder, as if the walls themselves were trying to communicate some dreadful secret. Our path led us to a grand hallway adorned with a majestic chandelier, its crystal pendants tarnished and dim. Beneath it, a grand staircase spiraled upward into the unknown. Sarah's curiosity got the best of her, and she suggested, "Let's see what's upstairs. Maybe there's a library or something." Mark's reluctance was evident, but he agreed with a nod. Okay, but let's stick together. As we climbed the creaking stairs, the mansion seemed to groan in protest. It was as though it resented our intrusion, and the oppressive atmosphere weighed on us like a sinister presence. At the top of the stairs, we found ourselves in a hallway, adorned with numerous closed doors. Each one beckoned with an air of mystery, promising secrets long buried within. Sarah approached one of the doors and turned the handle slowly. The room beyond was shrouded in darkness, its windows boarded up. Our flashlights revealed only a glimpse of peeling wallpaper and antique furniture covered in dusty sheets. But what caught our attention was a sense of movement in the room, a faint shadow that moved across the far wall. We froze, our breaths held, as the shadow grew more defined. It was the silhouette of a person, its movements slow and deliberate. Panic surged through us and we backed away from the room. "Did you see that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Mark nodded, his expression grim. "We need to leave now." Alex, ever the skeptic, tried to rationalize. "It could be a squatter or someone playing a prank. Let's check it out." Reluctantly, we approached the room again, our flashlights illuminating the darkness. But when we stepped inside, the room was empty. No squatter, no prankster. As we turned to leave, the door slammed shut with a deafening crash. We tried to open it, but it was as if an unseen force held it closed. Panic coursed through us as we frantically pushed and pulled, but the door wouldn't budge. "This isn't funny, guys," Sarah yelled, her voice quivering with fear. Mark's face had paled, and he looked around the room in a desperate search for a way out. "We need to find another way back downstairs." With trembling hands, we checked the other doors in the hallway, but they all led to more empty, eerie rooms. It was as if the mansion had sealed us in, trapping us in a nightmarish labyrinth of its own design. As we explored, the whispers grew louder, surrounding us like a chorus of the damned. The air grew colder, and a sense of dread settled over us like a suffocating shroud. We stumbled upon a room that held a dusty old record player, its needle poised over an ancient vinyl record. Against our better judgment, we decided to play it, hoping for some clue or distraction from our predicament. The haunting melody that emanated from the record player was like a mournful wail, filling the room with a sense of despair. The walls seemed to close in around us, and the shadows danced in eerie patterns. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw something. A figure, pale and gaunt, moving in the periphery of my vision. I turned, but there was nothing there. "Did anyone else see that?" I asked, my voice quavering. Sarah and Mark exchanged terrified glances. "I saw it too," Mark admitted. Alex tried to maintain his composure. "It's just our nerves playing tricks on us. We need to stay calm and find a way out." But our nerves were frayed, and the mansion seemed to feed on our fear. The whispers grew louder, the shadows more sinister, and we knew we were no longer alone. We pressed on, desperate to escape the suffocating grip of the mansion. The hallway seemed endless, the doors leading to more empty rooms or mysterious dead ends. The mansion toyed with us, shifting its layout like a malevolent puzzle. As we ventured deeper into the labyrinth, Sarah's voice trembled with terror. "Where's Alex?" We turned, but our friend was nowhere to be seen. Panic surged through us as we called out his name, our voices echoing through the mansion's endless corridors. "Alex, where are you?" But there was no reply, only the chilling whispers that seemed to mock our desperation. We were now 3, lost in a nightmare with no way out. Mark's face was pale as he muttered, "We need to find him, Jake. We can't leave him behind." We retraced our steps, searching every room, every hallway, but there was no sign of Alex. It was as if the mansion had swallowed him whole, erasing his presence from our reality. Despair settled over us like a heavy shroud, and the mansion seemed to revel in our torment. The whispers grew louder, their words incomprehensible, and the shadows danced with malevolence. As we continued our frantic search, a chilling realization dawned on us. We were not alone in the mansion. The figures that had haunted the corners of our vision had grown more defined, their features twisted in agony and despair. They moved with an unnatural grace, their eyes gleaming with malevolence. Sarah's voice quivered as she whispered, "We're not alone, Jake. The mansion, it's alive." Mark's grip on his flashlight tightened, his fear mirrored in his eyes. "We need to get out of here. We can't stay." But the mansion seemed determined to keep us within its grasp, its layout shifting and changing to confound our efforts. It was as though it reveled in our terror, feeding on our fear, like a malevolent entity. As we ran through the endless hallways, the figures closed in around us, their spectral hands reaching out as if to claim us. We were trapped, lost in a nightmarish maze with no escape. Hours turned into an eternity as we wandered the mansion's shifting corridors, our hope dwindling with each passing moment. The whispers grew louder, their voices filled with malice and torment. And then, in the dim light of a flickering candle, we saw him, Alex, standing at the end of a long hallway, his eyes empty and soulless. "Alex!" Sarah cried, tears streaming down her face. But as we approached, it became clear that something was horribly wrong. His movements were jerky and unnatural, his body contorting in ways that defied reason. He reached out toward us with grotesque, elongated fingers, his voice a chilling, guttural whisper. "We have to go," Mark said, his voice filled with despair. "He's not Alex anymore. We can't save him." With heavy hearts, we turned and fled, leaving behind the twisted, nightmarish apparition that had once been our friend. The mansion seemed to cackle with malevolent glee as we continued our descent. As we ran, the mansion's walls closed in around us, its layout shifting and distorting like a monstrous maze. We were trapped, ensnared in its dark web, with no hope of escape. The whispers grew louder, their words now clear and filled with cruel laughter. They taunted us, mocked us, and we knew that we were no longer in control. In our frantic flight, we stumbled upon a room unlike any other, a room filled with mirrors that seemed to stretch on into infinity. Our reflections stared back at us, twisted and distorted, their eyes filled with malevolence. And then, as we gazed into the mirrors, we saw them. The figures that had haunted us throughout our ordeal. They emerged from the mirrors, their forms stepping into our reality, and they closed in around us. There was no escape, no hope left. The mansion had claimed us, body and soul, and we were destined to join the ranks of the tormented souls that had come before us. As the figures closed in, their faces contorted with hunger, I realized the horrifying truth. We were now a part of the mansion, trapped forever in its cursed embrace, condemned to haunt its endless corridors for all eternity. The whispers grew louder, and the shadows danced with malevolent glee as the mansion claimed its latest victims, and the darkness swallowed us whole.